And how was your experience then, other than great?
It was exciting, right? It was exciting. Just being in that environment, especially as an entrepreneur, in an interview, it brings things, to life. It was real. I love that for sure, right? And I think it's going to really impact me as well.
And there you have Kai Lashley, one of our featured guests on the Rosehill Show. And Kai, if you could describe the show in one word, what would it be?
One word. I would say impactful.
Nice. Impactful.
This is Apostle Leroy Scanterbury, and I want to say what a pleasure it was to be here on the Rosehill Show with my good friend Apostle David Coulthrust and the Rosehill team. And I want you to know to call that number that's on the screen and let them know you're interested in being on the Rosehill Show. It's the place to be if you want to reach your target audience and if you want to take your life, your business to the next level.
My name is Maurice Lee. I'm the interim chairman of the Association of Public Transport Operators. It was a tremendous experience to be given the opportunity to share the aspect of public transport with the nation. Because essentially there are a lot of people that see vehicles driving up and down and are totally unaware of the things that affect this important industry. I'm pleased to tell you that you are watching the Rosehill Show. My name is Maurice Lee. I'm the interim chairman of the Association of Public Transport.
Good afternoon, my name is Chantal Brewster and I have just a few persons here with me who have recently been featured on the Rosehill Show. Antonio, step on in. I have here Antonio Williams. How are you?
I'm good, how are you?
I am great. And what do you think about the Rosehill Show?
I think the Rosehill Show is a very good avenue for people to display their businesses. For example, if you are a hairdresser, it's a good avenue to have a voice and show people what you can do.
Yes. And how was your experience on the show?
I had a great experience where I was able to display my entrepreneurship skills via my stepping stones, lawn maintenance, and giving people a voice on how to take care and maintain their property.
Nice, and there we have Antonia Williams, one of our featured guests on the Rosehill Show. And Antonia, if you could describe the show in one word, what would it be?
Well, one word is limited, but I would say that the show is explosive.
Explosive.
I really enjoyed being on the Rosehill Show. It was interesting.
I have learned a lot from my fellow participants tonight, and I'm now aware of several things that I probably would not have even thought about previously.
As a youngster, it has educated me about how to be a real man within society and how to really raise my family.
Good afternoon, my name is Chantal Brewster and I have just a few persons who were recently featured on the Rosehill Show here with me today. First is Joycelyn Wong. Joycelyn, how are you today?
I am fine, thank you. And yourself?
I am great. And what do you think about this Rosehill Show?
Well, I think the Rosehill Show is a unique tool for evangelism. That's how I see the Rosehill Show. In addition to being able to talk about your businesses, give your testimony, I do believe it's a unique tool of evangelism.
Nice. And how was your experience on the show?
I had a great experience. I was able to speak about some of the services that I offer. And yes, some of them, because there are more. So to speak about more would have taken up the whole show. So, but I did have a good experience. I was able to, like I said, I was able to speak about some of these services, and that was a good opportunity to do so.
Nice. So this is Joycelyn Wong, and she was one of our featured guests on the Rosehill Show. And Joycelyn, if you could describe the show in one word, what would it be?
Unconventional.
Unconventional. Good afternoon. My name is Chantal Brewster, and I have just a few persons who were recently featured on the Rosehill Show here with me today. First is Joycelyn Wong. Joycelyn, how are you today?
I am fine, thank you. And yourself?
I am great. And what do you think about the Rosehill Show?
Well, I think the Rosehill Show is a unique tool for evangelism. That's how I see the Rosehill Show. In addition to being able to talk about your businesses, give your testimony, I do believe it's a unique tool of evangelism.
Nice. And how was your experience on the show?
I had a great experience. I was able to speak about some of the services that I offer. And yes, some of them, because there are more. So to speak about more would have taken up the whole show. So, but I did have a good experience. I was able to, like I said, I was able to speak about some of the services, and that was a good opportunity to do so.
Nice. So this is Joycelyn Wong, and she was one of our featured guests on the Rosehill Show. And Joycelyn, if you could describe the show in one word, what would it be?
Unconventional.
Unconventional.
Crystal P. Austin, the United Progressive Party's St. James South candidate. It was indeed a pleasure and a privilege to be a part of the Rosehill Talks Politics show. I believe that as more and more of our local influencers, practitioners in politics and other sections of society participate in the show, that it will grow from strength to strength. I want to endorse the show and encourage other persons to tune in and share the links.
Good afternoon. My name is Chantal Brewster, and I have just a few persons here with me who were recently featured on the Rosehill Show. And I have Kailashi. Kai, come on in. How are you doing, Kai?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am great. And what do you think about the Rosehill Show?
I think the show was actually really, really great when it was on it. I think it's serving its purpose of giving those persons that don't have a voice,
yes.
a voice, right?
Yes.
Being on that show, it was great, man.
And how was your experience then, other than great?
It was exciting, right? It was exciting. Just being in that environment, especially as an entrepreneur, in an interview, it brings things, to life. It was real. I love that for sure, right? And I think it's going to really impact me as well.
And there you have Kailashi, one of our featured guests on the Rosehill Show. And Kai, if you could describe the show in one word, what would it be?
One word. I would say impactful.
Nice. Impactful.
Announced as yet, but one of the most stirring topics recently is the entrance into the race of ex-prostitute Natalie Harewood, representing the city of Bristol. And I'm sure that you will have your thoughts on that. And Barbados is any citizen can run, and many people have their opinions as to whether she should run or not. But the race again is becoming even more interesting, with several parties vying for the rulership of Barbados and the privilege to govern Barbados over the next 4 to 5 years. And we will be talking to one of those political parties this evening, what people are deeming the alternative parties. We will be talking to Solutions Barbados. Our commitment here, as you would have seen, would be to interview these parties. So we would have gone through the People's Democratic Congress with the leader Mark Adamson. We would have talked to the UPP with leader Lynette Eastman. We would have talked to Barbados Integrity Movement with the leader Neil Holder. And now this evening we are talking to Solutions Barbados, really to get a sense as to the vision that they have, talk a bit about what they see, where they see Barbados going, their economics policies, their national policies, their view on tourism and international business, and any other thing that they would want to talk to. So we will be chatting with them this evening. And please continue to stay tuned, because there are a lot of exciting
partnerships and networks that we're going to be connected with in order to really cover the election process, the election day, very, very comprehensively. So as I said, Barbados is becoming very, very interesting politically in this season of elections, which are to be announced. But this evening we are going to be interviewing Solutions Barbados on the leadership of Grenville Phillips. So stay tuned. We will be right back after a few messages.
I'm Caroline Bradshaw Green.
Hello, my name is Veronica Eversley.
My name is Pastor Linda Jones, and I've been on the Rosehill Show. It's been an exciting evening discussing the issues that are impacting women.
It's not only informative, but also thought-provoking.
What was impressive for me was the engaging host that we had and how he made us feel very comfortable. Continue to tune in.
On Wednesdays at 7 p.m.
You are watching the Rosehill Show.
This is Apostle Leroy Scanterbury, and I want to say what a pleasure it was to be here on the Rosehill Show with my good friend Apostle David Coulthrust and the Rosehill team. And I want you to know to call that number that's on the screen and let them know you're interested in being on the Rosehill Show. It's the place to be if you want to reach your target audience and if you want to take your life, your business to the next level.
I'm Pastor Dr. Kathy Nova Rochester, and as an HR practitioner, I see the issues within corporate Barbados where companies really need to start to look at more family-oriented policies to encourage women to be able to be at work, to be productive, but be able to still live that balanced work life. Rosehill Talk Politics. This has been the Rosehill Show. I'm Pastor Dr. Kathy Nova Rochester, and as an HR practitioner, I see the issues within corporate Barbados where companies really need to start to look at more family-oriented policies to encourage women to be able to be at work, to be productive, but be able to still live that balanced work life. Rosehill Talk Politics. This has been the Rosehill Show.
That's how I see the Rosehill Show. In addition to being
I'm Pastor Dr. Kathy Nova Rochester, and as an HR practitioner, I see the issues within corporate Barbados where companies really need to start to look at more family-oriented policies to encourage women to be able to be at work, to be productive, but be able to still live that balanced work life. Rosehill Talk Politics. This has been the Rosehill Show. I'm Pastor Dr. Kathy Nova Rochester, and as an HR practitioner, I see the issues within corporate Barbados where companies really need to start to look at more family-oriented policies.
Okay, we are right back with our guest this evening from Solutions Barbados, Grenville Phillips. How are you doing, sir? It's always good to see you.
Thank you.
And these suits are sharp.
Okay, thank you. I thank my wife for that.
You thank your wife for that?
Yes.
Good stuff. How's she doing?
She's doing well.
And the kids are doing good?
Yeah, the one son, yes, he's doing
how was your singing and your, last time you came here, you sing, you play, you write.
Keyboard, yes, do a number of things.
You must come and sing for us, man.
Whenever you invite me, I'll come.
You're a good singer, though?
Well, I do my best.
50-50.
He's 50-50. Well, welcome, Grenville Phillips. Always a pleasure to have him here. He's the leader of Solutions Barbados, a structural engineer and a businessman. I want to attach on there, he hasn't said this, but from watching him and observing him, I think it's safe to say that he's an accomplished businessman. But he hasn't said that, but I just put that in there because I think it is worth saying.
Okay, thank you.
President of Walbrent College, an institution that trains persons to build property, and certainly in the Caribbean that is absolutely necessary, particularly because of our likelihood of being struck by natural disasters, particularly hurricanes. Yes. And you're very passionate about pursuing and sharing the truth, and he is a committed Christian. Yes. And he's very modest because I have all of his his CV right here in all of these 5 points, and I know that there's much more to him, and I keep encouraging him to, tell the story of who he really is. But he's a modest and a humble man. I will go for ladies first.
Oh, thank you.
Good, you're most welcome. Julie Chalbaud.
Chalbaud, yes.
Right. That's a what's the origin of this last name?
Well, his dad, my name is originally Webster, my maiden name.
Right.
His father is French, his ancestral line. Yeah.
Right. Good.
From Bordeaux.
From Bordeaux.
Yes.
Good stuff. Photographer for 20 years.
Yes.
Former interior designer. Passionate about the arts and culture. You're Christian and married to Daniel.
To Daniel.
Right. So we picked that up.
Very good.
Yes. Former photographer, what are you doing now?
Well, I'm still doing photography and video, working with the party.
Okay.
And, using my gifts to bless and help with the party, yeah.
Good stuff. How's business?
Business is slow in the last year since I've been switching into politics. It's been rather slow. I think it's a challenging time for everyone right now, economically.
So if I need good pictures of the party, I'll call you.
Absolutely.
Yes.
I have all the photos.
The best. You have the best photos. We will be calling you to get some very vibrant photos of. You have some good-looking people in this party. I don't know if that was a prerequisite. You have some very good-looking people in this party.
Definitely some good lookers.
I'm telling you, you've got some good-looking people. They're pleasant to look at. I can't say that of all the parties, but these people are pleasant to look. You got some. You picked some good lookers, right? Good. You picked them, or they just came for it?
But the Lord picked them.
The Lord picked them.
Yes.
The Lord definitely picked them.
Amen. Daniel Chalbaud, entrepreneur focusing on construction, restoration, and beautification of private homes and businesses for over 15 years.
That's right.
Hotel operations and maintenance management, villa maintenance and general management. He's a doer and a fixer.
Absolutely. That's my middle name.
Doer and a fixer. Okay. And married to Julie Chalbaud. Do you have to stop him from doing and fixing things around the home?
No, it's good. I let him get ahead with it. That's good. I always want a man doing and fixing. And he's my private chef as well.
He's your private chef?
Yes, he's trained in the culinary arts. So
that's right.
I have a personal gourmet chef at home to cook for me. So I don't need to eat out at all these lavish restaurants. I have this wonderful chef at home. I'm very blessed and spoiled.
You're tempting me to segue the program into talking about marriage,
Right. Well, we can mix in a little bit of that.
I'm saying, and maybe in the future we'll get you to come on the show and cook.
Well, I mean, that's a possibility.
That's a possibility.
I would love to.
You love to?
I would love to.
I
don't consider it hard work at all.
What's your favorite dish?
I don't have any favorite dish. I do many.
What is her favorite dish?
I think she likes Italian.
She likes.
Yes.
And you cook Italian?
So I do a really good pasta with a really, really, really good tomato pasta.
You're my new favorite person.
Yes. Because you like Italian as well?
I like pastas are great.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Yes.
Any ambitions of opening up a restaurant? Listen, I am saying things. Here's my vision. Okay, you open up a restaurant. She does the interior decorating, and he plays the music himself. This is a perfect combination going on here. And I'll just come in and find out, so I
think I prefer the day work though.
You prefer the day work?
Yes, of course, absolutely.
I'm
a morning person.
You're a morning person.
Restaurant work is night work.
Yeah.
I did that before. I don't.
You did the restaurant before?
Yes, I did. I didn't own a restaurant. I worked in restaurants. I worked in kitchens and so on. So
how did you two of you guys meet?
We met through a Bible, sort of like a Bible class, sort of like a cell group church, home church.
Right.
That's where we met.
Okay.
Yeah.
How did you get? I've asked Grenville these questions. So I'm just asking you. What brought you to the I call it a crazy decision because it's a bit crazy to get involved in politics. What?
You think so?
Oh man, in Barbados, you have to have a particular level of gumption to get into politics. It's a noble sacrifice because they call it a sacrifice. It really is a sacrifice because humans are not born without. Well, they're born without dirt, but they accumulate dirt and mistakes as they go on. Politics has a way of finding the things that you have forgotten.
And dig it up for 20 years.
I mean, God doesn't even remember it. But people remember, I remember, and your life is really scattered to the public. It becomes an open book. And that is not always the best.
Well, there's nothing they haven't said before. It's a small island.
It
so
is.
everybody knows everything about everybody.
Well, everyone doesn't know everything. They get to know everything when you get involved.
Well, anyway, most people know everything about everybody.
So what brought you to this decision of getting involved in politics?
Well, Grenville and I worked on a project, I would say a few months back. I'd say a year back. Started working on a project. He was the engineer. Called him into the project. And I think a few months into that, we both knew that we were men of God. And Grenville called me one day and essentially told me that the door was open.
Wow.
And I go, for what? And he described what he was talking about. And I had no doubt at that time that this is what God was calling me for. Because, as you say, I'm a doer and a fixer. That's what I am. And that's what I like to do. Wow. I'm a perfectionist. I like to do, in my trade, I cannot sleep if something is not done right. So why not bring that talent or that God-given gift to the Barbadian people?
Wow.
To the Barbadian people.
Well, I want to talk a bit about the vision of Solutions Barbados. And it is really a provocative name in and of itself. You bring solutions to the issues of Barbados. So let's talk a bit about the vision of the party, and what do you see Barbados like in 5 to 10 years? And we'll talk about how we can possibly get there. You share as much as you can share.
Okay. Well, the vision is to have a country where all Barbadians can be healthy, prosperous, and well educated if they choose to. And we do this by looking after everyone, identifying where the cracks are and making sure that everyone is taken care of. So if we can maybe get to our policies, we can see most of that.
Right.
But it's more finding what are the root causes of the problems that are hindering Barbados' development, what are the root causes of crime, what are the root causes of our health concerns, and once we identify the root cause, we solve the root cause. We also solve the symptoms, but we actually solve the root causes so that we don't have them tripping us up again. So the policies that you see are basically root cause solutions.
Well, don't just want to engage him, so I'll just throw a question out for everyone to answer. Several downgrades later, I like to start at this point. Several downgrades later, whoever occupies the next government, whoever leads the country over the next 5 years, is going to be faced with an uphill task. And we'll get into some details about that later. But I want to ask you, what do you believe, the three of you believe, has brought us to the point that we are at, which is really unprecedented in the history of this country from two perspectives. From the perspective of obviously where we are, and from the perspective of being seemingly very difficult to get out of it because of our options that are fastly diminishing and because of the global economic climate. What has brought us to this point? I want to throw that out to everyone.
Right, let me answer it first. It's indiscipline.
Indiscipline.
That's all.
Speak up, please.
Yes. Indiscipline because both parties have different philosophies. The Democratic Labour Party believes that we should develop Barbados. We should build our roads and our airports and hospitals by taxing persons and using that money to develop Barbados. And that's a very good thing to do. And Barrow did it very well during his 10 years, his initial 10 years. That was our golden age. The Barbados Labour Party, however, believed in debt financing. You go and borrow money and then build. And therefore, under Tom Adams, they built a lot of things. We built the Grand Adams Airport, the ABC Highway, National Insurance, Central Bank. We did a lot of building. But there are limits, there are boundaries in which these things operate. You can't tax people too much. Once you start taxing people too much, then the economy declines.
Right.
You can't over-borrow. Once you borrow over a certain limit, then the economy declines. So what we have right now is that we've been overtaxed and we've over-borrowed. We borrowed way too much. We weren't supposed to borrow above 40% of our gross domestic product, the amount that we earn in a year, and we are now all up to about 150%.
And seeming claiming.
Yes, but the last administration took us to about 90%. Remember, we weren't supposed to go above 40. The last administration took us to 90, and this administration is now taking us to 150. We were never supposed to go above 40 if we're going to use debt financing to develop Barbados. So that's what brought us to this point is just indiscipline. We just couldn't control ourselves with grabbing money from the people in overtaxing and overborrowing.
Let's hear from Julian.
I would say it's on the part of both administrations. It's a lack of accountability.
Okay.
Yes, and I think that every man should be accountable to someone, and we are accountable to God. Yes, and by us being accountable to God, we will follow His example and do what His will requires us to do. Therefore, both governments, both administrations have fallen short of that because they're only accountable to themselves. This is why we are proposing to implement the ISO 9001, which is an accountability system, in essence. So I believe that introducing this quality management system into the public sector, the public sector will then be accountable to the ISO, which is a non-partisan organization, and therefore things will run a lot better.
How do you get people to shift from where they are right now?
In terms of
the mentality, because what you're proposing is diametrically opposed to how Barbados is run.
That is correct.
And you are going to get some pushback within the public service.
Opposition.
Yes.
Particularly because people are appointed.
Of course.
And they may go to the courses but decide not to do as fast as you would want them to.
Correct.
So how do you change that mentality?
Well, I'm sure everyone wants to do a great job. I mean, I'm sure there are people within the public sector that want to do better, and I'm sure that those people would adhere to the ISO 9001, and they would want to do better. And I believe that the ones that are more difficult to fall in place will eventually come into place when they see the system working better. And even if that person that is a bit rebellious and does not want to adhere, they would see that this actually works, and this can run better. So therefore, they would fall into place or they would fall out of place. So, do you see where I'm coming from?
Well, what do you mean fall out of place?
Well, I'm just saying. I mean, they will either stay in or they will either want out,
okay.
or that we could retrain them into a different department. Maybe they will do better in that department. So. I think it will work out.
What do you think has brought us to this point?
I think corruption has contributed significantly.
Okay, and what?
To the decline of this country. Because if the head of something is corrupt, everything else under it is going to be cursed. And we know that as Christians.
Right.
When kings in the times of the Bible were wicked, everything else under it was difficult and hard. And basically, we're looking at high levels of alleged reports of corruption. And I think until we address that with serious anti-corruption legislation and integrity legislation, and hold politicians to account, that nothing is going to change in this country. We need to change the whole political order and the way that things are done, and the tax structure as well, because I think that it's facilitated significantly the wealthier, the corporate Barbados, the private sector, but we've not really looked after the poor properly. And if our public services aren't functioning, and we have sewage flowing in the streets, roads that are crumbling and in terrible condition, pitted with potholes, buses that run maybe every 3 hours.
If they run at all. People
waiting at a bus stop from 4:35 in the morning to get a bus to get to work for 8 o'clock. How are we facilitating the poor in this country? Not everybody's driving around in a beautiful vehicle. a significant proportion of our population take the bus. And our bus services aren't even working. Half of our buses are down. I mean, we have to think of families, we have to think of the people of this country. If we don't care about people, then how can we run a country properly? If we're only thinking of the wealthy or the corporate Barbados and bringing in foreign investment and big business at Barbados, but we're not looking at the general comfort of our people, then they've fallen through the cracks. Pretty much even the middle class right now are falling into poverty. So I think that this is a cultural thing we need to address. And we need to start to really tackle this situation seriously.
You raised a lot of issues here that I want to talk about. I want to deal with the whole corruption thing. This is really coming off of your Facebook page. You said here, and I want to read this: corruption, both the payers and receivers of bribes. Just get this close. I'm not as young as I used to be, you know. I think glasses work.
Yeah.
They deceive you, right? Both payers and receivers of bribes will confidentially pay a fine of the full value of the bribe during a 3-month amnesty. Thereafter, whistleblower legislation will be enacted, where the offender's fine will be 10 times the value of the bribe. The whistleblower will be rewarded with the full value of the bribe. However, the whistleblower may be liable for defamation if there is no evidence of corruption. Is this something you plan to put into law, and how practical do you think that something like this would be?
Within the first week, we will start this. So there's a 3-month amnesty of sorts, where anyone who has paid or received a bribe, they come confidentially and explain what they've received or who they gave it to. And after that 3 months, then the whistleblower will receive a reward of the full value of the bribe. The new rich in Barbados, in the Solutions Barbados administration, will be whistleblowers. If the amount of corruption that normally happens around the world is indeed happening in Barbados, if you go on Google, corruption and the construction industry, you realize that between 10 and 30% of a construction project is corruption. That is a massive amount.
Yes, it is.
No, we can't really speak about Barbados' situation because of our defamation law. But there is a lot of money to be made for whistleblowers. Because if the example of other countries were to happen in Barbados, the tellers know about it at the banks. The contractors that build homes, the persons just below the permanent secretary. The good thing about this is that over time, those who received bribes or facilitated it, they come to know the Lord. And then they want to get this burden off of their heart. And they need an avenue. And this provides the avenue for them. So we expect that the giver and the receiver will sort things out. I had a meeting with a fellow who I went to his wedding about 30 years ago. I was at university. And I attended the wedding of him and his wife, and they were in Barbados, and I entertained them. And they hate corruption. I've been in the construction industry for the past 25 years. A lot of people hate corruption. But what these people tell me are, it's simply a cost of doing business in developing countries. Because he's at the same level of me as a director. When they are caught and the court case goes on, they repeat the same sort of mantra. Paying bribes is simply a cost of doing business in developing countries. Now, we don't really believe that it actually happens here, but just in case it does, we're providing that avenue so that people who are always saying there's corruption in Barbados, well, you have 5 years.
Do you believe it happens in Barbados?
Well, we don't know. That's the safe answer. Right, it's alleged by the other political parties. The party in opposition usually waives evidence on the platform.
Until they get to the government.
Yes, and they say that's incontrovertible. They're accusing the other party of gross corruption, and they intend to do something when they get in.
If there is corruption in Barbados, if there is, let's be hypothetical.
Yes, that's the best. That's the safest way.
Good. So, if there is corruption in Barbados, to what degree do you think that is impacting the economy? So, this is the reason why I'm asking this question.
Yes.
If it is not impacting the economy, if it is not setting us back, if it is not delaying our development, then there's no need for this legislation. If you're absolutely honest people.
Yes.
Right? So let's assume that it is, hypothetically, is happening. To what degree do you think that it is affecting our economy and our growth and the future of Barbados? And I throw that out to anybody.
But I could just say that of the $14 billion, I
was hoping that you would repeat that, because that's a huge sum.
Huge. Right. No, that is the amount that we owe as a country.
I know.
That's the amount of debt.
I know. We're in a huge amount of debt.
If we are as corrupt as how it is internationally, then we're looking at about $4 billion of that being corrupt activities.
That's a lot of money.
That's a lot of money. And therefore, that's what the whistleblowers stand to gain. But those who have given or received bribes will
so
pay back
I want you to pause, because you're a mathematical man. And that would lay us into probably about 20-something weeks of imports, wouldn't it? I think because we were like I think $400-something million, and we were at 6 weeks import. So we're talking.
We're now at 4 weeks.
4 weeks imports, right?
Yes.
And I think that's $400 or $500 million. So we're talking about we're talking about between 20 and 30 weeks of imports. If we were to save that amount of money in corruption, we would be in a good position in terms of our foreign exchange.
We would have a lot more for sure.
A lot more.
If people paid the bribe, if people paid the fine, and we plan to contact every contractor and consultant who's worked in Barbados since independence, let them know of this so that they can come quickly and pay their fines. Because a lot of these large companies, they work on large projects, and they will rather work on another $200 million project, but pay the fine than to be blacklisted by the IDB or the World Bank, where you can't work again for the next 15 years. You can't tender.
So let me just get this straight, get my head around this. So a Solutions Barbados government, upon taking government within the first week or so,
yes,
is going to begin to enact very aggressively anti-corruption law, and you're
whistleblower legislation.
Pardon me?
It's called whistleblower legislation.
Whistleblower legislation. And you're going to proceed to contact all of the contractors, international contractors that have worked,
and local ones,
that have worked in Barbados on major projects.
Yeah.
Government funded. Well,
that's correct. Government funded.
Government projects.
Yeah.
And you're going to tell them of this legislation.
This 3-month amnesty that they have.
3-month amnesty that they have, and they have to now come and repay the bribe, or whatever.
Yeah, yes.
Whatever they received.
Yes.
If they don't do that,
yes,
there is a list international. They can be blacklisted internationally.
Right. If they don't do that, and the party who received the bribe comes forward and pays their fine, but when you're paying your fine, you must also say who you received it from.
Right.
Then after that 3 months is up, the penalty is 10 times the value. If you received $1 million, the penalty is $10 million.
How do you enforce this against
an
international company?
They are tried in absentia if they don't come, because there will be enough evidence, because the person that received the bribe will provide the evidence.
And this is tried in courts of Barbados?
In the courts of Barbados, yes. And therefore, then we notify the World Bank and the Inter-American Development Bank and the Caribbean Development Bank and the Asian Development Bank and all the various banks or funding agencies around the world, let them know that this person was convicted. And therefore, they then get blacklisted for like 25 or maybe 20 or 15 years, depending on what it is.
So I just, this question is going through my head, and I'm going to move off this, because The $4 billion just caught my attention.
Yes.
But that's major, right?
That's if we are as corrupt as.
Yeah, assuming
it is alleged. If it is,
yes,
if we are as corrupt, and let's hope that we are not. But all of us are here. There's a gut feeling that it may be that, but we are assuming. Humans are humans. So this question is circulating in my head. There's a statute of limitations generally on everything. Is there a statute of limitations on this because we're going back to the time of independence and coming forward? Yes. So is there a statute of limitations on, corrupt practices, receiving bribes?
Right. I'm not sure, but the Constitution can be changed to amend that.
To amend that?
Yes.
Okay.
Because we have to go back from independence because of the evidence that we can't talk about.
Yes. Because it's alleged.
Yes,
it's alleged. And we're not calling any names because we don't know anyone.
After 5 years, though, because again, people's names will be recorded in a book, not on a computer. After 5 years, the book is burned, and there's a general amnesty for everyone.
Right.
So if you got away, you got away. But at least people have 5 years, and after that, I don't want to hear anything about corruption. Don't talk about any corruption in the past because you had 5 years to bring it forward. Mm-hmm. Right now, we are clean. And Transparency International is happy with this plan. So we hope within after about a year, we will be number one in terms of the least corrupt country.
Let's talk a bit. Let's talk a bit about Transparency International and the importance of the perception of transparency on the health of an economy. Because I believe that investors look at this.
Of course.
But the typical person would not understand the importance of transparency when investors are looking at how important is transparency to investors when they come into the country.
Well, that's the key thing I think they're looking at, and ease of doing business, which we've sort of stifled here, because it's not easy to do business.
Julie, you're making me write a whole lot of things.
Oh, sorry, I talk too much.
There's an ease of business, so I have to write that down because these are all things that you get me going, right? So I'm going to write that here because I want to address that. And this is all in your. Keep talking. I'm just telling you.
There's a lot of bureaucracy that people have to fight through in order to do business here.
Mm-hmm.
Various people want to come here and set up hospitals, for instance, build, medical facilities.
Right.
But after years of trying to get the permission and get this whole thing approved, people give up. They get tired. They get fed up.
Right. But so I know I distracted you a bit. I want to talk about transparency and how important is that to doing business in Barbados. Yes, go on.
Well, I mean, for me, if I would put myself in the position of an international business, and if I were coming to Barbados and I saw that there was all this red tape and all of this, all of these walls that I'm coming against to do business or open up a business here, I mean, I would be totally scared to open up a business here or put my money into Barbados. Obviously, because, I mean, transparency would be important for any business to come into Barbados. I mean, it would be.
Yes, but given that we are like 25, that's not a bad number. So I think people look at that number and think, well, we're not bad. But then they come here and then they experience a different thing. So the number could be deceptive. Mm-hmm. Yes. But we will have a scheme where we will hopefully be number one. Because this is
in transparency.
In transparency. Yes.
Yeah, anti-corruption, dealing with corruption. Well,
because we're addressing it.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, and very comprehensively. And I want to make that very, very clear to those who are listening. I want to talk a bit about the transportation issues of Barbados. And, the bus service is not cut in half. It's less than that.
Less now, yes.
And,
you're correct.
My stepfather was a bus driver. He's since passed away. And how old am I? He's probably talking about 30 years ago, just beyond 30 years ago. And at that time, the fleet of the transport boat was over 200. You come to 30 years later, you get down to 60. As far as I know, the population has not gotten any smaller. And
it's increased, if anything.
There you go. But one, how has the transportation system, which is vital to any economy, got to this point? And how can we fix it?
But the buses haven't been maintained. And I believe they probably purchased too many buses all at one time instead of staggering it across a period of 10 years, say, bringing a few buses every year and then maintain the older buses. They probably brought all in at one time, if I'm correct.
Yeah, they normally do that. They normally bring a whole heap of buses.
Whole heap in at one time, and then they don't maintain them properly. Like all the public services, the maintenance is the issue.
Yeah, I believe also, yes, as Julie was saying, is if there's not a preventative maintenance schedule for these buses, and I'm sure there is somewhere on paper, but it's not enacted and it's not enforced. Therefore, you run a bus into the ground and then you have to fix it, you bring in a part and so on. The part is put aside or is put into the bus and then it doesn't work. I mean, I've heard stories where they have ordered parts for these buses and it's been the wrong part. And they ordered a whole heap of these parts and then they didn't, they had to reorder them again and the buses are still there. So if you look at where the buses are all parked there, I would call it the bus graveyard. And so more than half of the buses are there.
Is privatization of the transport board a viable solution that we should?
I would say so.
Yeah.
I would say so that we could put it out to tender and still regulate it so that the senior citizens can still get on their buses and the school children as well.
Are there enough PSVs, if regulated properly, that they can begin to alleviate the situation?
Yes, I think they are, but we would still want to have the bus service transport the children until we can really make sure that the regulations are effective. But I'll just go back to the maintenance issue for the buses, because our solution for that is to tender the maintenance. So everyone can tender. Here's a bus, it's broken down. The government will bring the parts in duty free. So the government will supply the parts. But so even if you just came out of Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic, or if you've been out for maybe 10 years and you have a little mechanic shop, you get to tender on one bus. And you fix the bus, but your tender also includes maintaining it for 6 months. So if you do a good job, then you maybe only maintain it once during that 6-month period. If you do a bad job, you're going to really lose your shirt, because every month is off the road and you have to go and fix it free, because you've already paid the amount. So if you do a good job, you only have to fix it once. If you do a bad job, you fix it every month.
I want to be very, very clear on this point.
Yes.
Right now, there is, I think it is UCAN.
Yes.
That fixes is
and others and
a few others are contracted to fix the buses.
Right.
So you're saying spread that out to other competent people.
Yes.
And therefore spread the cake around. More people get. Is that what you're saying?
That's
is that your
it.
intention?
Yes. And you start with one, and then if you can demonstrate that you've done a good job, then we'll give you another bus, and then add some more. But we're not giving out someone like 50 buses to have 50 buses sitting on there. So if one person is doing it very well, then we want him to benefit.
This seems to be very consistent with your idea to empower poor people.
Yes, that's correct.
Well, we have just 5 minutes in this segment, and I want to begin to touch the sewage project. I don't know if we're going to get through that in 5 minutes, because we're going to come back.
That's a crisis.
That's a crisis. What has brought us to this point? And if we don't complete it, we'll just come back to it. What has brought us to this point? How can we get out of it? I know that you are an engineer, and you would have some particular insights into what has happened. But what has brought us to this point? It is that frustrating, isn't it?
No, but it's the policy of both established parties, which is not to allow engineers to look at designs before they go spending hundreds of millions of dollars. It makes a lot of sense to you have someone doing the design, an engineer does the design, and then allow other engineers to look at it, so we can see how we can improve it. And if you find improvements in other countries, sometimes the engineers are paid a percentage of what they're able to save the government.
One of the challenges I think that we have in Barbados, and I want to Well, almost press you on this point. One of the challenges that we have in Barbados that I've seen is that politicians become experts in everything upon elections. As long as they're elected, they become an expert. Do you find that several of our politicians just refuse to listen to experts? Is that your experience? Yes, you can take a deep breath.
But some do. Yeah. So there's some ministers who do. I think most listen. I think they all listen actually. Whether they take the advice or not, that's another matter.
Well, then they hear, but they don't listen.
I think they do listen, and I got a little upset in my early time in my career. And my father told me, "Listen, you're a professional. Your job is to simply give the best advice you can. If the client takes it, they take it. If they don't take it, well, that has nothing to do with you. Your job is to give your best advice." So I think persons give their best advice, but with engineering matters, you have to be perfect. If your calculations are 99%, not 100, then you get bridges failing, like the one in Florida.
Right.
So they have to be accurate, and that's why it's a good idea to have another engineer check. And even if you don't want to pay the other engineers, fine, just put out there what the previous engineer has done. Let's all take a look at it and say, well, look, did you think of this?
Grenville,
no,
should this be in law?
Yes.
We're going to come back to this. Should this be in law? How should that law look?
Well, if it's not in law, at least it's sent to, let's say, the Barbados Association of Professional Engineers, or it's published online, so that person can download the drawings and take a look at it and then give their advice. And I offered to do, I was talking about this like for the past 20 years, begging both, not that they pay me, just let's see it. Because this is a national project, you're going to spend about $100 or $200 million. Before you do that, let's take a look at it.
But if it's not law,
then you don't have to do it.
No, my point is, if it's not law, you're going to get that situation.
Yes.
Right? Because then if it's optional and some person wants to hide something, why are they going to open it to public scrutiny? So that's why I was asking you if it should be law.
Well,
from that perspective, make sure that everything that is going to have requires an engineer to be involved. Okay, it has to be exposed maybe to a body of engineers for their scrutiny and for their suggestions. But we'll come right back and we'll start on that point, and then we'll segue and talk a bit about taxes, because I'm interested in how we're going to make this taxation system work. But I like your ideas on corruption and what you're going to do about the bus service. That I think that bus service thing is just that's amazing.
Yes.
I am sure that several of the mechanics are now getting up their pins and looking to vote for your representatives. That is an amazing idea. Okay, well, guys, we are talking to Daniel, Julie, and Grenville here from Solutions Barbados with some very, very interesting ideas on corruption and transparency and the ease of doing business in Barbados, of course, and the bus system. And now we were talking about the sewage project we're going through. Please, if your friends have not joined us, share the video to hear what these people have to say about how Barbados should be directed, how we got here, and how we can go forward. We will see you in a couple of seconds after these messages.
Good afternoon, my name is Chantal Brewster, and I have just a few persons who were recently featured on the Rosehill show here with me today. First is Joycelyn Wong. Joycelyn, how are you today?
I am fine, thank you. And yourself?
I am great. And what do you think about this Rosehill show?
Well, I think the Rosehill show is a unique tool for evangelism. That's how I see the Rosehill show. In addition to being able to talk about your businesses, give your testimony, I do believe it's a unique tool of evangelism.
Nice. And how was your experience on the show?
I had a great experience. I was able to speak about some of the services that I offer. And yes, some of them, because there are more. So to speak about more would have taken up the whole show. But I did have a good experience. I was able to, like I said, I was able to speak about some of these services, and that was a good opportunity to do so.
Nice. So this is Joycelyn Wong, and she was one of our featured guests on the Rosehill show. And Joycelyn, if you could describe the show in one word, what would it be?
Unconventional.
Unconventional. Good afternoon. My name is Chantal Brewster, and I have just a few persons here with me who were recently featured on the Rosehill Show. And I have Kailashi. Kai, come on in. How are you doing, Kai?
I am doing great. How are you?
I am great. And what do you think about the Rosehill Show?
I think the show was actually really, really great when it was on it. I think it's serving its purpose of, giving those persons that don't have a voice, a voice, right?
Yes.
Being on that show, it was great, man.
And how was your experience then, other than great?
It was exciting, right? It was exciting. Just being in that environment, especially as an entrepreneur, in an interview, it brings things, to life. It was real. I love that for sure, right? And I think it's going to really impact mental health as well.
And there you have Kailashi, one of our featured guests on the Rosehill Show. And Kai, if you could describe the show in one word, what would it be?
One word. I would say impactful.
Nice. Impactful.
Well, we are right back here with Grenville, Daniel, and Julie talking about the vision of Solutions Barbados. Very, very exciting to talk to these political candidates and really get them in moments of calm outside of the political firestorms that tend to turn up during political seasons when people are attacking each other. I really get to hear their heart on matters in Barbados when they're not defending themselves against sometimes unwarranted attacks. And we have talked about a whole number of issues, trying to really get a sense as to where they're at, some exciting things that we are talking about. And when we were closing, going to the break, we were talking about the South Coast Sewage Project issue, the South Coast Sewage Project crisis, and how it is spreading into the international media. I think Germany just gave a warning, an advisory.
Yeah.
Once people come in here. So it's Germany, Canada, England, and America. And God knows who else. These are major markets. And I was talking to Grenville, who is an engineer, asking him, engaging him on how we could have avoided this. So I want to start you there. And we were talking really about submitted plans to engineers. So let's move beyond that. As how can we fix this? This is not easy, but how can we fix this?
Yes, there are some simple steps. The first thing is that the drawings need to be examined now. Because if I could look at the drawings, or any chartered engineer could look at the drawings, we could then identify where are the vulnerable points. And that's the root cause of the likely problem. Also, you examine the construction records. When it was being built, what were the concerns, what didn't get done, where were the defects, and then you look at the maintenance schedules. So looking at those three things, the drawings, the construction records, the maintenance schedules, within a few days, the root cause of the problem can be identified. So you solve the root cause, and also a temporary solution to all the sewage flowing in the street, which is a symptom, but there's a root cause. And for whatever reason, they won't share the drawings.
Really?
Yes. I mean, we have a national crisis now, and up to this day, they wouldn't share the drawings. I've been begging for them for a while, but they won't share them.
Why do you think this is?
Oh, we can't speak of those matters now.
I always get curious on these things, When we started this show, I didn't expect to learn so much about the underpinnings, what happens in Barbados, or why it doesn't happen, or
yes.
But
we will sort it all out. We will sort it all out because we have an effective method of sorting things out.
Okay.
But it does affect the tourism industry
significantly.
Yes.
Well, Daniel, you're in hotel Or have been in the
Well,
hotel
I used to be.
Right.
I used to be, yeah.
How was it impacting the hotels?
Well, I haven't been in the hotel industry for quite a few years.
Based on your observation?
Well, based on my observation, I mean, I do pass that area almost every day, and I can see how it is affecting tourism. I see tourists actually hopping along with their flip-flops, through the sewage, and obviously these tourists are carrying this news back home, and as well we have Barbadians going on Facebook, telling people about it as well within Barbados. But then that spreads. People are sharing this information. So obviously it's getting out there. I mean, I'm no engineer. I mean, Grenville is the engineer here. And I can't tell you how to resolve that problem. And I don't even know why we have a problem. But it is clear to see that whatever was done 20, 25 years ago was not done properly. It was not engineered properly. Because if not, and as well, it has not been maintained properly. And that is the cause of it.
Wow. Well, let's move on. Talk a bit about taxes. Now, I want to introduce this by reading what you have here. And it says, personal and business taxes should be affordable. Here, I believe, that. So I'm also, supportive of that. Fair, easy to pay, and easy to audit. Therefore, all individuals and businesses will be taxed at 10% of total gross income with no deductions. All old debts will be forgiven and VAT will be abolished. Now, those are some strong statements.
Yes.
So I'm gonna start at this point. We are in $14 billion of debt.
Yes.
And we are not earning a lot of money.
Yes.
Because, of various reasons. Investors are afraid. 2022 downgrades. We are below investment grade and all that kind of unhappy things. All those kind of unhappy things. People are afraid. They're tentative, etc. If you abolish VAT, I noticed you didn't mention the NSRL. Are you going to abolish that?
Yes, we are. Yes,
okay, so you're abolishing the NSRL
and VAT. Yeah.
And VAT. So you are automatically taken out of the economy. Well, not out of the economy necessarily, but you're automatically taken, stopping the government accessing hundreds of millions of dollars. How do you replace that? I'm not even going to talk about 10% flat tax yet. How do you replace that?
Right. We've been talking about this for a while, and we know that we're getting some pushback on it. People saying, well, we don't understand it, no matter how much we explain it. What we did was we took our quantitative analysis and shared it then with economists and accountants. We got our report back from a fellow of the Institute of Chartered Accountants in Barbados, who said, one, our assumptions that we've made in the numbers are ultra conservative. I made sure that they were very conservative because I don't want to argue. I don't want someone to say, well, how can you justify bringing in 14 million or 10 million here? If I can't justify it, if I don't have a report where it's been done before, I put zero. So a lot of the line items have zeros in them. Even though they were saying, well, you could put in like 20 million here. I said, no, I'm putting in zero because I don't want to argue with anyone. I only put in numbers where I can really justify it. And he said, our assumptions are ultra conservative. Within 1 year, we turned the economy around where we are earning a surplus as opposed to running a deficit. So you have a surplus, all the downgrades are reversed. In our first year, we can start paying down on the debt. His final recommendation was that the other parties need to look at our plan because it's non-austerity. We're not laying off a single civil servant and we're not reducing their salaries, but we are following this plan. And our challenge, because we've invited the Barbados Labour Party and the Democratic Labour Party and the UPP to also have their plans independently reviewed. The BLP said they're not doing it, but the Ds, well, they're not doing it just yet. The UPP said they will do it, but they haven't done it yet. I asked the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Barbados and the Barbados Economic Society, set up a joint committee and let us all submit our plans. And you all then, as an independent agency, non-partisan, come and let us know which ones are the best. Because if ours aren't good, or they're not the best, let's adopt the BLP's one. Or let's get the DLP's one, let's use the UPP's one, but let's at least know which is the best plan. All the other plans are austerity mitigation plans. They're saying we have to suck salt, maybe for 5 years, and then suck whatever is left after the salt is gone, because you have to import the salt, so you're going to the IMF or whatever. So there's a lot of austerity. Ours is a non-austerity. Ours avoids austerity. Ours is the only austerity avoidance plan. The others are austerity mitigation plans. They're trying to mitigate all the hardship. We're saying we don't have to go down the road of hardship, not just yet. So we run a surplus in our first year. Now our challenge, since these professional organizations don't want to do it, they try to get academics at the University of West Indies and they don't want to do it. My challenge then to you is if you can get a group of non-partisan economists and or accountants and invite us to submit our plans to you, to your group, for the benefit of the country. Because they're already doing a wonderful thing in terms of giving persons exposure, giving parties exposure. The critical thing that needs to happen, I believe, is that the public needs to know which is the best plan.
Well, what I can do for you,
yes,
or what I can try to do for you, don't let me say
that's right.
I can try to do for you, is to assemble a team of people, maybe 6, 7 people.
Yes.
Accountants, finance, very competent in finance.
Once a non-partisan.
Yeah. Very competent in finance,
yes,
and some economists, if you're willing to come,
yes,
and look at the plan and let's discuss it here before elections happen, so that people can understand. Because we are committed,
yes,
to making sure Barbados is educated,
yes,
and they understand what it is that they have before them, which is something that's fundamentally important to me. I was born and bred in Barbados and never lived anywhere else, and I believe, as I've said to you, and I've said to the members of whichever party I've spoken to, okay? Up to this time, we've not yet spoken to members of the DLP, but we believe that will happen.
Yes.
We've spoken to every other party, pretty much. And I've said the same thing to them, that I honestly believe that the greatest challenge facing Barbados after the election is not going to be a South Coast sewage crisis,
yes,
nor will it be the potholes and those type of things. It will be international institutions. It will be developed countries. It will be their policies. It will be investors who maybe want to take advantage of where we are. And we need to have, we need to have the brightest and the best, with the best policies and plans, okay, set in place to ensure that we weather those storms. Because at this point in time, Barbados is more vulnerable than it has ever been.
Yes.
And we need to have the best people to defend it. So, Grenville, I make this commitment to you that I'm going to try my best.
Thank you.
Thank you.
To put together a set of people who will assess your plans in detail.
Yes.
Non-partisan people.
Yes.
And I will ask you, when I send those names to you, right, that make sure you're comfortable that they're non-partisan.
Yes.
Okay? And, we'll come here and we'll discuss them.
Yes.
Okay? And I'll try to throw that together as soon as possible.
Right,
I already have 2 people circling in my mind that are very, very bright accountants.
Okay, because the consequences of this is that if you go to the IMF, devaluation is almost certain, because the IMF is there to protect our foreign currency. So all the foreign currency that we earn from tourism, they're there to protect it from us, Barbadian consumers, because it doesn't belong to us. We borrowed it and we can't pay it back. So every time we export rum or whatever, and we get foreign exchange or foreign currency, that's there, and if you want to go and use it, no, it's not yours. But how they protect it is by making it more expensive, and therefore devaluing, and by raising taxes, and that's what they did in Guyana. In Guyana, they doubled the income tax rate, so that the Guyanese didn't have much after they have spent on their necessities. And also, they devalue to make it more expensive. So even after you've worked, and you have a little bit of money left, it is so expensive to go and buy. And if you still have some money to go and buy it, they keep devaluing and increasing taxes, devaluing and increasing taxes. Eventually you can't increase taxes anymore, so then you devalue, so that right now it's about 200 to 1 in Guyana. Because they are there to protect, they have one single role, protect that foreign currency for the creditors. And to think that we are going to go and negotiate something, we have to understand what their role is. And we keep thinking that, oh, their role is to help us develop. No, their role is to protect our foreign currency.
Wow.
So
selling our soul.
Yes, we expect then everyone with a mortgage, every household with a mortgage, if they're not earning foreign currency, they're going to lose their house within 3 years. Because the mortgages are usually fixed for 3 years, the rates, the mortgage rate. Some are this year, they're negotiating theirs, some next year, and some the third year. And when it's negotiated, since we don't have Barbadian banks, the banks are foreign owned, the shareholders want their profits, their dividends. So they're not going to accept Barbadian monopoly money. They want the actual dividends. And the only way to do that then is to increase the mortgage rate.
Several of the bankers, the investors, politicians, everyone is saying the best thing to do is to go to the IMF.
Yes.
Just next door, and one of our Caribbean neighbors, they went to the IMF. 5 years later, they're doing better.
Grenada, yes.
Grenada, correct.
Yes.
What makes Barbados different to Grenada if we go to the IMF?
Yes, and that's the fatal flaw in their reasoning. The IMF cannot devalue another person's currency. Grenada shares the Eastern Caribbean dollar. So they can't go and devalue that. Well, however, they could devalue Jamaica's, because that's the Jamaican dollar. They could devalue the Guyanese dollar. They could devalue ours, because we have our own currency. Had we remained a part of the Eastern Caribbean and shared the EC dollar, then they couldn't devalue that either. So they couldn't devalue Grenada's dollar because it's a shared currency.
Should we join the EC?
Because of our indiscipline, perhaps we should not have left. Because once we had our own currency, then we just print money, like Mugabe. We just print money. And now we just really printed a lot of it. So that I understand there's about 10 times the amount of Barbados dollars as they are foreign currency to back it up. 10 times. So if you're going to devalue, you may devalue at maybe about 7 or 8 to 1.
Is it still a viable option for us to join the EC?
Oh, I don't know. That's a discussion we'll have to. But we believe that we will have fiscal discipline. We will have fiscal, because we're going to run a surplus, not a deficit, in our first year.
So the answer would be no.
The answer would be no. Yeah. Okay.
But to protect Barbadians, maybe we should think about it.
Yeah.
Maybe 10 years down the line.
If you form the next government, one of the things that you have to really face is Caribbean unity, Caribbean single market and economy. Is this something, what is your position on the Caribbean single market and economy? Is it something that benefits Barbados? There are several majors that don't think that it benefits Barbados. There are others that think that it does, and it's the way that we should go, that we should really push towards having a one Caribbean. What is your position? What is your party's position on that?
Well, the basic position is that we like the economy, but we don't want to like the political aspect. So it'll be a single economy is a useful thing. It's useful for the Europeans, it's useful for the Asians, and it's useful. It should be useful for us as well. But they've been trying to harmonize the laws for a long time, trying to harmonize the regulations. It seems they are not the same, and therefore Barbados, because we went ahead and did a lot of work, there are other countries that are not doing work at the same rate as us, and therefore we seem to be taking on more of the load. So if the others don't play ball, maybe we should say, all right, let's hold off and everybody get their laws harmonized and let's give it another try.
The Caribbean happens to be one of our major trading partners.
Yes.
Isn't it in our best interest then to push CSME, because we benefit in a huge way from CSME travel, inter-Caribbean trading. should we push it?
Yes, but you can see Jamaica wants to pull out. The other nations that feel that they are taking too much of the weight want to pull out because the other nations just aren't doing their jobs. Right. But I do believe though that like travel, good grief, I think we should take all the taxes or most of them off of the tickets because we want to encourage people to come here. Why should it be so expensive? It should be very inexpensive to come here. If you can get them here for free, we should try to do that.
It's an amazing thing that in some cases it's more expensive to travel within the Caribbean than it is to travel to the United States of America.
Yes, but we want them here because once they're here, then we can entertain them. And
Is there room in your vision for an international airline? Let me talk to those who have been in the tourism industry. Is there room in your vision for a national airline? Sorry.
Well, I certainly would like to see that because we had a Caribbean Airways at one point, and that was a great airline. And I really think we should really look at having something like that in the future.
Inter-Caribbean travel has continued to be a major issue. Persons are looking at Grenville certainly hit the nail on the head when he said taxes are the issue. If you look at a ticket, it's horrendous. Because really and truly every country that is connected to LIAT wants to get a piece of the pie. Incidentally, Barbados owns, I think it's about 51% of LIAT. Someone asked, do you think that LIAT should be brought here from, the headquarters should be brought here from Antigua? Would a solutions Barbados bring LIAT here from Antigua?
I don't think we need to do that. But certainly we will push for reducing those taxes.
Yeah.
So the other countries can find another way. If you want to go and have a tax at the airport for people that go to your country, then fine. But not us. We want to encourage them to come here.
So they can really recoup the money, but just at your port?
Not in the cost of the tickets.
Not in the cost of the ticket. Okay.
Yes.
That's amazing. Okay, I want to move on and talk a bit about, because I can get caught up in these things.
Yeah. That's okay.
But it's an interesting conversation. You've said here, well, let's deal with this one, because there are many things to deal with. Let's deal with this one, because I think that parliamentary privilege, personally, is something that needs to be reviewed. So you've said here, the privilege that allows politicians in Parliament to accuse individuals without consequences will be abolished. Parliament should be the place where exemplary debates and discussions are held, not a place of incivility. Where did the concept of parliamentary privilege come from? Why does some person think that such a thing is necessary?
I think it helps people represent their constituents when they can just speak freely.
Okay.
But it's been taken advantage of because they're now calling out persons in the private sector, and that shouldn't happen. If he's done wrong, there's the law courts. There's no reason to go and try to sully his reputation in Parliament.
So you're saying it's necessary, it has its place, but it's being abused.
Yes, and I think if we remove it, at least people will be more careful about what they say.
Okay. I also want to let's talk a bit about education, because we don't have a lot of time. I want to talk a bit about that. You've said that we certainly over the last couple of weeks have seen our school children behaving in unseemliness. I think that school children always behaved in unseemliness. It's just that it is more public than before. But you said here in this bold statement, wide sweeping statement, all students should leave school with at least one marketable skill that they can use to generate income. Therefore, the school curriculum will be revised so that the easier to learn practical aspects of subjects are taught during the first 3 years. Let's talk a bit about that. Yes.
I would just start by saying that I was really terrible at school. I mean, I was not academically inclined at all, because I did not learn theory well. But when I went to secondary school, and one of the schools I went to, because I did not do very well at school, so I went to many. we did woodwork in one of them, and I excelled at that. I excelled at art with my hands. So I believe that if for the first 3 years, this is one of our policies, for the first 3 years, if a marketable skill can be taught, and then after that, the theory can come.
So what do you consider to be a marketable skill?
Home economics, cooking, carpentry.
Why am I not surprised that you said home economics first as a chef?
Well, I'm just saying it's just because I'm a very practical person, even more than theory. So I mean I'm good with my hands.
Right.
As I said, I'm a doer.
Yes.
As a fixer. So I believe that more kids will stay in school if they were interested in the subject that we're doing with their hands. And if they were interested after that, they could get into the theory and go on to their CXCs and whatnot. So I believe it's a great policy.
Let's also address.
Before we leave that one though, because the critical point there is that the school system is designed for the early learners, not the late learners.
Right. This is something I was going to talk about. I want to also speak about the common entrance and the fact that we have should we just send people that believe that hey, abolish the common entrance, abolish the hierarchy that is in the school system. So let's talk a bit about that. Saying that we're addressing the whole secondary school issue.
Yeah, we haven't actually discussed it as a policy, but because the school system is designed for the early learners and not the late learners, you want to make sure that the examination is fair for both. So both the early and the late will benefit, and so the exam needs to be looked at.
Which is the common entrance exam.
The common entrance exam. So I think we should still have it, but just make sure that both the early and late learners have a sort of a level playing field. So there's a certain minimum standard. You don't have to go way too high. There's a certain minimum standard. You can pass that and therefore allocate the students. As opposed to just throwing it all together, because there must be some standard that you should use.
Are we adequately preparing within our educational system our children for the world? I don't want to say the world of work, because we always tend to think that that's the only thing that school is designed for, to prepare you for work. Are we adequately, the world is changing so rapidly, are we adequately preparing our children for the world?
Probably not. We need to teach them more computer skills, get better computers in the schools for one. Children need to learn entrepreneurial skills, how to start their own businesses when they leave school, because not everyone might have the facility to go to university in the UK or the US or Canada. So we have to make open doors for the youth to be able to have the giftings and the opportunities to start their own businesses.
Edutech was the government's attempt to have broad-based access to computers within the school. And that was something that was largely piloted under Amir Mondi, right? That had its challenges and had to be revamped on several occasions, right? Infrastructural challenges, et cetera, et cetera. So how do you propose to have greater access to computers within the schools, which is absolutely necessary?
Absolutely.
Yeah, but how do you propose to have that?
Fortunately, in the age where we live, all you need is a Wi-Fi connection and a cell phone, and that's it. Or you can use a tablet if you want to do some more with the program. But the idea is that everybody learns to start a business at school, so that when they graduate, they have a good foundation of knowledge. They have the practical aspects of subjects, like applied sciences, music, playing music by ear. So you're playing music by actually playing. You're learning music by actually playing it, as opposed to learning about every good boy deserves food and all these theoretical aspects. You are speaking Spanish by conversational Spanish, not by conjugated verbs. No one learns that way, right? So we all learn by speaking, and then later we learn to conjugate the verbs. So the idea is to learn the easier fun parts of subjects that both the early learners and late learners can understand. And therefore, by the time they get into fourth form, that they're basically at the same level.
Okay, so you bypass something that I want you to address. You talked about tablet and the Wi-Fi,
yes.
the structural issues, which is a very common sense approach. Our students are laden down with books, right? Sometimes these heavy books upon their backs, and it is a cost to the educational system. Right? Can we go more towards e-books,
yes.
etc., and making that more of a resource in the school, the same tablets?
It's lighter.
Yeah.
It's lighter as well, right?
Yeah, more accessible. Okay. All right. Well, we don't have a lot of time. I want to also wrap up this whole conversation on education. You said here this is really maximizing the properties that we have that are closed on evenings. Evening classes, tertiary education, evening classes. I want to read what you have here. Managed by evening classes managed by the BCC, Barbados Community College, and the Samuel Jackman Prescott Polytechnic will be held at secondary schools. Many of our students are unable to attend BCC and SJPP due to the lack of space. This is additional space. None of our diligent students should be denied a UE education due to the lack of funds. Therefore, UE tuition will be paid in full for those who obtain 7 CXC Generals 1 and 2 and 3 Cape passes. The educational budget is stretched as it is. Funding has been withdrawn from the university. Well, don't let me say withdrawn, but payments are delayed sometimes because government may not necessarily have the funds. How do you propose to find these funds and increase the amount of funding?
Yes, but that's through our taxation system.
Okay.
We reduce taxes, we take in more revenues. That's why we say that Owen Arthur deserves a knighthood. We've been saying that for a long time. For the past 3 years, he deserves a knighthood because he proved that when you lower taxes, for corporate taxes and personal income taxes, you take in more revenues. So that's why you want, if you can get this group together, so we can show you we actually have the funds to do it, because there are some things that the public doesn't have to pay for in some of our plans.
Why go down the road of having more graduates in a nation like Barbados? Is that necessary?
If people want to go to university, they should be able to go once they qualify. So I wish all of every single, as Hilary Bickle says, every household had a university graduate.
But is that necessary for us? How? Let me ask the question a different way.
Yeah.
How does an increased amount of graduates help Barbados?
The vision of the party is that everybody becomes healthy,
right,
wealthy or prosperous and well educated,
right,
if they choose to. So whatever they choose to do with that education is up to them. Whatever they choose to do with that money, if they want to eat unhealthy or not, is up to them. We're not dictators. We're just here to facilitate the prosperity, the education and the health of Barbadians because we love them.
Do you think you get a better citizen if they are that well educated?
Oh, you get more professionals in the field.
More professionals.
Barbadian professionals. Therefore, less outsourcing of professionals coming and say.
And better run businesses.
Yes.
That's the point I'm getting at.
So, yes.
Because there are people that don't think that is necessary.
Absolutely.
Yes.
But a better educated
if we could have 20 engineers as opposed to 5,
right,
it's better for Barbados. That we don't have to bring in engineers from Canada. Because we have them here.
You can go after business that is overseas, etc.
Yes.
Our people are our greatest resource. We need to, begin to improve our educational system.
So the policies are all designed to improve Barbadians.
Our time is running. There are 2 things specifically I want to touch on. Agriculture. I want to leave the National Bank to last. Agriculture. Government should share the crop theft risk. Therefore, farmers will be reimbursed immediately for thefts and an effective pre-deal larceny section will be set up within the police force to investigate and charge offenders. I'll just stop at that point. You are suggesting that the government should, if my crops are stolen, then the government should reimburse me for
That's the word you're looking for.
I lost. Is that what you're suggesting?
Yes. And we have the money for it. We need you to get.
No, I'm not talking about the money.
Okay.
I'm talking about you may encourage a farmer to get his crops stolen.
He would be fined if he did something like that.
How are you going to know this? I just thought one of the things that I love about this is a consistent thread with all the just forgive me for saying alternative parties, right? Because I think that any party that is not in the government is an alternative party. But anyway, alternative parties really is that the ideas are very innovative. The ideas are very bold, they're very fresh, and they're very innovative. I'm going to tell you that you're not going to see this on any person's manifesto. Right? You're not going to see this addressing pre-deal larceny in this way. How do you think that this would reduce pre-deal larceny? That is really because you know at the end of the day, any addressing of that issue must contain the idea that we want to reduce it. We don't want people to steal. So how do you see this, the government paying part or paying all of the costs, reducing pre-deal larceny?
Yes, but the government only pays the initial cost. Every offence in Barbados will carry a fine of 10 times the value. So if the vegetables cost $1,000, the fine for the person who stole them is $10,000. So the money will be recouped. So it's not the government just laying out the money and it's lost. And therefore we have a well-resourced pre-deal larceny section in the Barbados police force who will then go after these persons. So if you had a whole set of tomatoes that were stolen,
right?
Well, they just, where tomatoes are normally marketed, they have a week to go and put everyone there and go and look, and when things come in, do you have a receipt? And they will eventually find the person.
Should our police force be given more resources to deal with rising crime and pre-deal larceny and all of the kind of issues that are happening in Barbados? Should they be given more resources?
We expect the crime to go down, because after the person has stolen $1,000 worth and has to repay $10,000, he may try it again, but the police will catch him because our police are very good. He does it maybe 2 or 3 times, and then he'll realize, look, it's cheaper for me to go and plant my own. Right? The fellas are stealing cell phones. He still steals one, $700. He has to pay back $7,000. Then he'll try it again, and that'll pay him back $14,000. 2 cell phones. He's eventually going to come into his mind.
It'd be cheaper to buy his own.
Cheaper to buy my own. Yes.
I wish we could talk more about giving the police resources, but I want to deal with, because we're doing, again, our time. A national development bank will be established. We've tried that. We had a national development bank, and it was sold.
Yes.
I see you bow your head in shame. Like, oh my God, why did this happen? Why does Barbados need a national development bank again?
It's for the small businesses, because again, all of our policies are for people that they can develop and not hit some ceiling. They can develop. They need small loans. If they need a large loan, then they really have a good business, and therefore they go to the commercial banks. But if they need a small micro loan, there's no one there to give that to them. And therefore the National Bank is there specifically for small loans only.
But what about fund access? Do they meet the criteria? Because they do give small loans.
Yes, yes.
I think, between I think they raised their ceiling to $80,000 or $100,000, and then there's a few others.
Yes.
But are you saying that the National Bank would go further?
Yes, because these are just small $5,000 loans, micro loans. If they want an $80,000 loan, then they have to go and produce a lot of paperwork.
Right.
A fellow or a homemaker making coconut oil from coconuts or something, just wants to go a little further with about $5,000. I don't want to burden her with having to fill out all this paperwork and coming up with a business plan and all those sort of things. Just go and get your money and get the thing done, because you have, I see what you're doing. And if it fails, you pay it back. You can easily pay back a small loan than a large loan. A large loan is a burden. So I prefer that. They just take small loans and see what they can do with those.
Microfinancing is something that has been practiced around the world for ages.
Yes.
And very, very, very successful.
Yes.
In India and in Africa has been very, very successful. And a bank, a national bank dedicated to that, I believe certainly will be successful. Poor people tend to pay the debts.
They do.
Well, believe it or not, we have come to the end of our time this evening. And we have touched on agriculture, we've touched on the National Bank, we touched on the South Coast Sewage Project, corruption, parliamentary privilege, secondary school, tertiary school taxes, ease of doing business, buses, big business. We've touched on a lot of things. We segued and touched a bit about the tourism industry. I don't think that you understand how much you talked about, but you spoke a lot about your policies, etc. And once again, Grenville, I commit myself to try my best to assembling that panel of individuals to examine your policies, and we will even go further than that. When all of the manifestos are officially launched, we will gather a group of persons here to really examine these manifestos, etc., and talk about them from an unbiased perspective. That is our commitment to you. Before we go, so thank you, but I'm going to talk about you last, so that you're the last focus. Before we go, I have right here, I don't think that, I'm not sure if you guys can see this, but there's a promotion from Star Chick. I met the proprietor, wonderful guy, Mr. Clark. Wonderful man of God, Mr. Clark, doing amazing things in the parish of St. Lucie, the best parish. I was raised in St. Lucie, so it's the best.
Oh,
parish.
You were? Oh, wow.
Raised in it's the best parish. It has some of the last fresh air, right? When you go into St. Lucie, the air is different. All right, I'm not unbiased. It's just what it is. The further this way you come, the stale the air gets. You go into St. Lucie, I'm telling you, your asthma will go.
And what about St. Joseph?
Yeah, all the country.
St. John.
All the country. You know they used to criticize country people.
Oh yeah.
They just live the longest now. It's just up there. It's the best place to live. Buy your land in those places. It's fresh air. Good. So Star Chick. Good evening, Mr. Clark. If you're watching, Star Chick is offering a special from today. They're doing some amazing things. Amazing things in St. Lucie. Right, Star Chick offering a special from today. Whole chicken, $15. Imagine that.
Wow.
I'm telling you, Star Chick has a whole chicken for $15, and they're running this special until they're saving 2 packs of legs, $7.50. 2 packs of breasts, $7.50. 4 packs of legs, $15. 4 packs of breasts, $15. 2 packs of thighs, $14, and 3 packs of thighs, $18. It's amazing.
We need all the help we can get.
Is that for any kind of weight, or is that across the board?
Yeah, a chicken is a chicken.
Well, there's different weights.
Huh?
Different weights in chicken.
No, he's selling a whole chicken for $15.
Right. Okay.
This is his commitment right here. Okay. He's a very man of integrity.
Very good.
Honest Christian pastor. Whole chicken, $15.
That's brilliant.
Cheers to that.
Whole chicken, $15 from Star Chick, and the chicken look good.
Yes.
I got some today. It looks good, nicely packaged, nicely presented. I am telling you, right? If this is amazing. So connect with Star Chick. I believe that it's going to be. We'll talk some more about this next week. I believe they're in the supermarkets, but you can contact them. They're in St. Lucie. Star Chick. Go down there. They have. I saw the facilities today. They have their. The supermarket like section that you can go into.
That's in St. Lucie, you said?
It's in St. Lucie, and it's worth the drive to go down there.
Bright Hall area, the Bright Hall.
Yes, correct. If you come down from the St. Lucie Parish Church, okay, you come down as though you're going to Checker Hall. You come down that road, All right, so you come 2 miles a quarter, come through Rosehill, get to St. Lucie Parish Church roundabout,
Past the
and you
cave.
take the where am I? You take the left. Don't go down through Bentham's. Go down as though you're going to the cement plant. And when you get to the Jehovah Witness church on the right hand side, don't be speeding down that highway. It's a temptation because it's one of the few smooth roads in Barbados. Right.
Yeah,
okay,
true.
so the temptation is to speed, right? Don't speed down the road. Drive smoothly. You're going to pass the photovoltaic plant on the right hand side. Past that, go down. You're going to see the Jehovah Witness church sign. Now you're going to turn right by the Jehovah Witness sign, and you're going to go through kind of the rocky road, and you're going to, in 10 seconds, you're going to be on the plant. It's worth the drive. The scenery down there is nice. Take in the fresh air. I'm going to say that again. Take in the fresh air. Go down there and hit up on Star Chick.
Support local business.
Yes, support, and you want to see what he's doing. Grenville, you need to visit, man. I'm telling you, your eyes will pop open as an engineer. I'm telling you, so I went down there today. He is doing amazing things. I'm not exaggerating.
Yes.
He's doing amazing. You need to visit here. And in a time of economic crisis, a whole chicken for $15 ain't bad.
Not bad at all.
Not bad at all.
Excellent.
Connect with Star Chick, and they also do deliveries as well.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah, they do
Perfect.
deliveries and that type of thing. So if you can get a couple of people together, and let them make
Go
one
buy
delivery.
in bulk.
Free delivery? Free delivery?
As far as I remember, yes.
Oh, that's great. Man.
Okay, so
Yeah.
but as far as I remember, but I'm not going to stick my neck out there on that because I was so excited about the price of the nuts and the delivery.
Right.
Okay, but hey, you know what? Go and they're also, what I find is very accommodating to the parts and the pieces that you would want.
Right.
Okay, so once again, Star Chick, the special starts from today. Whole chicken, $15. 2 packs of legs, $7.50. 2 packs of breast, $7.50. 4 packs of legs, $15. 4 packs of breast, $15. 2 packs of thighs, $14. 3 packs of thighs, $18. And it's right here, Star Chick, amazing company, right there in St. Lucie, small businessman who took that company from nothing and made it into something grand, and it's continuing to grow.
That's tremendous.
Guys, thank you.
Thank
you. Julie, wonderful contributions. I look forward to getting all those nice photos. We'll talk afterwards. Daniel, wonderful contribution. My pleasure. And as usual, Grenville, as usual, very, very insightful comments and inspired comments and informed analysis of what is happening in Barbados and the solutions that need to be applied to the situations. I wish you all the best. This may be the last time we speak before the bell is rung.
Thank you, Apostle.
Hopefully it will be rung soon, but you guys look ready to champion the cause and fight the battle, which is going to be a very, very interesting battle. So as long as I get that team together, then we will speak again. But I am praying and keeping my fingers and my toes and my eyes crossed that we will get that team together because I'm excited about examining your proposals. Well, this is it from Rosehill Talks Politics. Please remember, I have an exciting announcement for you next week about a partnership that we have developed and going forward to cover the elections. I'm telling you that this is going to blow you out of the waters. We're going to have a very comprehensive coverage of the Barbados elections, and I'm going to be telling you a bit about that next week because we are going to give you something that has never been seen before in Barbados. So you want to watch out for that as soon as the bell is rung. As a matter of fact, we are already compiling everything in relation to that. All of our teams is going to be crazy in here. So you want to connect with that. Share the video. Get some people on next week. Once again, we're going to be talking to some exciting guests about their political plans and the future of Barbados. Until then, have an amazing week, an amazing night. And this is it from us at Rosehill Talks Politics. I am your host, David Coulthrust. Thanks for joining us, and see you next week. God bless you.